Straight Shift with the Car Chick, the podcast that's all about cars, buying, selling, fixing, and driving, and sometimes running fast if you're the car chick. Now, here she is.
Welcome and Happy New Year. Last time on the Straight Shift, we talked about New Year's resolutions. A lot of people have a New Year's resolution of finding the perfect match, that ideal partner who has similar priorities, a compatible lifestyle, that person who makes you smile every day. Well, in this case, I'm talking about finding the perfect car. For many people, selecting the perfect car is a very rational choice. A car for them is simply a tool to get yourself from point A to point B, preferably as comfortably and economically and safely as possible. But for others, it's more of an emotional choice. Looks, image, styling, even performance may weigh more heavily in their decision. Either approach is perfectly valid, but that doesn't necessarily make the decision any easier. With over 400 makes and models of cars, trucks, SUVs, and vans on the market, that's a lot of vehicles to choose from. So, how do you pick the right vehicle for you? This is a big part of what I do for my clients, and I very frequently get asked, so what do you think about this car? So what do you think about that car? We're trying to decide, what we want to buy. Well, while I have opinions, and usually very strong ones, of course, about individual vehicles that are on the market, that doesn't necessarily mean that my opinion of that vehicle would be my opinion of that vehicle for that individual person. Everyone's situation is unique. And so a vehicle that normally I would say, this really isn't, the best vehicle. It's not particularly reliable. There have been a lot of problems with it. But for the right person, it might be the right fit. For example, my good friend whom I call my brother, he's a cop, and he and his buddies do a lot of rock crawling. They like to go out in the middle of the woods and take their 4x4s and go crawl up rocks and cliffs and stuff. They're nuts. But he wanted a vehicle that could handle that. And so a Jeep is honestly one of the best vehicles to do that type of activity. It is not a reliable vehicle. It is not really a smart vehicle to buy from an economical standpoint. But for him and what he wanted to do, what his lifestyle is outside of work, that was really the perfect vehicle for him. I would normally not recommend that vehicle to someone who says, I want something to commute back and forth every day to work, and I'm going to put 20,000 miles on it. No, in that case, we're not going to talk about putting you in a Jeep Wrangler. That's not what they're designed to do, but they are designed to go off-road and do that crazy rock crawling stuff. And so it was the right vehicle in that situation. That's why I'm hesitant when people ask me, what's your opinion of this car? I don't like to answer that because I want to know what is the right car for you. I can tell you what I think about a car, but that doesn't mean it's the right car for you. Like I said, that can be a difficult decision for people. And according to J.D. Powers, women spend an average of 17 weeks just researching cars before they make a buying decision. And men spend 15 weeks. So this isn't just a female thing. It's because there's so much out there. And I think one of the reasons that women do a lot of research is if it's not an area that is our area of expertise naturally, we tend to do a lot of research and empower ourselves with knowledge because we want to make sure we're making the right decision. Not everybody is that way. Not everybody is a researcher. Some people go very much on the emotion, and that can actually be one of the pitfalls of selecting the right car. I like to call it bright, shiny object syndrome. You see this beautiful car and go, ooh, I want that one, without doing the research and the analysis. And that's how a lot of people end up in the wrong vehicle. Because getting a great deal on a car starts with picking the right car in the first place. And when women spend, this amount of time, and men too, when you spend so much time researching, the good news is there's a lot of information available for free or for very little money on the internet. The downside is that there's a lot of information out there, and it can be very difficult to weed through all of it and understand what it means. And much of it is conflicting. What do you trust? Because some websites that look like good research sites are actually lead generation sites that are owned by dealers and manufacturers, and the information is designed to steer you into buying their product versus their competitors' products. So you have to really understand what sites you're looking at and understand who owns those sites, where do they make their revenues, and can their reviews of cars even be trusted? This can lead to a lot of confusion and overwhelm for people who are doing that research. It can lead to a state that I call purchasing paralysis. It's like trying on too many wedding dresses, which I did, by the way, when I got married. After a while, everything starts to look alike. You can't remember which had what, and you just get so overwhelmed that your brain literally freezes and shuts down. I had a client a few years ago. She had done just that. She had been researching and was doing that she went through a whole year of researching. She test drove about 8 different SUVs. And finally, her husband said, please just call the car chick. You're driving me crazy and you need a new car. And ironically, when we went through my process with her, the vehicle that was perfect for her, it was one vehicle and a very specific model year of that vehicle happened to be perfect for her. And that was actually the vehicle that she had initially thought about. So her initial instincts were actually right on, but she didn't trust herself and she did want to do the research. And the research she learned a lot of good stuff, but she did do a little too much of it and got herself overwhelmed. So today I want to talk about how do you pick the perfect car? What are the things that you need to do? And give you some insight into my process and how I do it. As an automotive, quote, expert and mostly self-professed motorhead, I do know just about every make and model on the market. Every year I go to the auto show and I literally spend 4 to 5 days crawling through every single one to learn about them. I research the quality. I know about the recalls, but this is my life. This is what I do. And I'm married to a master mechanic, so I get a lot of information from that side as well. And we pretty much have no other life outside of cars. So, my lack of a life is to my clients' benefit. But over the years, that's kind of given me a knack for intuitively knowing what the right car is for a given person. I believe that a car should not only meet your needs. I mean, obviously, meeting your budget and meeting your needs are the 2 most important things, but I also think that you should love it. Now, it might not be your dream car because, your dream car is out of your price range. Trust me, I know that. My dream car is a McLaren. I can't afford a McLaren. I probably will never be able to afford a McLaren, but still a dream car. But it's not necessarily the perfect car that suits what I need it to do now and be a car that I will go out to my garage every day and look at and go, I love my car. It breaks my heart when people say, I hate my car. You should never hate your car, even if it is a temporary vehicle that you gotta kind of live with right now because of maybe a financial situation or a credit situation. You still shouldn't hate it. So let's talk about how to pick the perfect car based on your unique lifestyle, budget, and personality. Number 1 is looking at your budget. I am a huge believer in making a smart financial decision when you buy a car. You should not impulse buy a car. And because a car is a depreciating asset, you can really get yourself into deep trouble by buying the wrong car or buying it in the wrong way, financing it incorrectly. I have a client right now who went out and she fell in love with an Infiniti and she leased it in order to get it into her price range, to get the monthly payment that she was comfortable with. Well, she drives over 20,000 miles a year and she got a 12,000 mile a year lease. So needless to say, she's a little over a year into this lease, and she is already way in the hole on this car. She's about $8,000 upside down. And she knows that if she keeps the car to the end of the lease, she's going to be at double the mileage that she is allowed. And that's going to be a huge financial burden for her. So we're currently working on getting her out of that. But you really need to make that budget number a hard number and be very honest and realistic with yourself. And only look at vehicles that you can comfortably afford in that budget. And I'm talking on a purchase of no more than a 60-month loan term. Way too many people fall in love with a fancy car that is outside of their price range, but the dealer's job is not to help you make a smart financial decision. Their job is to sell cars. So of course, if they hear a monthly payment you're trying to get to, they're going to pull all the tools out of their sales toolbox to try and get you to that monthly payment so that you'll say yes, regardless of whether or not that puts you in a precarious financial situation. That is not their job. That is not their problem. That is your responsibility as the buyer. So, if your budget is only, say, $10,000, don't go looking at new cars. Don't go looking at BMWs and Mercedes. $10,000 is going to buy you a very conservative or an older vehicle. Now, if you've got $40,000 or $50,000, sure, that opens up a lot of other options. But never, ever, ever test drive a car that is outside of your budget. It's just like they say, don't try a wedding dress that's outside of your budget. You don't want to fall in love with something that you can't afford. And the next thing you know, your brain's trying to figure out, oh, well, how can I afford this? How can I afford this? And that's how you get yourself into big financial trouble. And with the way cars depreciate, you can impulse buy a car very easily because there are not a lot of regulations around it. Getting approved for a car loan is a lot easier typically than, say, getting approved for a mortgage or going through a real estate process. But while you can impulse buy a pair of shoes and you get home and you think, oh my God, why did I spend $300 on a pair of shoes? You can take those shoes back. You can't take the car back. In most states, they have the 3-day rule is gone. It's been thrown out. So if you buy the car, very few dealerships will allow you to say, oh, I've had buyer's remorse and bring it back. Now, they might let you flip it into a different car, but you can't just return it. So you really need to be disciplined and make a smart financial decision. We're going to take just a quick 60-second break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about your lifestyle and your personality and how to find the car that fits both of those. I'll be right back. Do you hate car shopping? Do you worry about being taken advantage of or about finding the right car at a fair price? Buying a car can be a frustrating and time-consuming experience. But what if you could get a great deal without having to do a ton of research, without having to haggle, and without the fear of buying a lemon? You can. As your personal car shopper, the Car Chick will help you pick the perfect car based on your unique lifestyle, budget, and personality. She'll handle all of the legwork and negotiating for you. All you have to do is sign the papers and take the keys. It's that easy. To learn how the Car Chick can save you time, money, and hassle on your next car purchase, give us a call at 888-575-2138. That's 888-575-2138. Or visit us on the web at thecarchick.com.
Ah, the Car Chick is back. And this is Straight Shift.
We're back talking about how to pick the perfect car. We're talking about my 3-step proven process that looks at your budget, your lifestyle, and your personality. It's a 3-pronged approach to picking the perfect car uniquely for you. We've talked about the importance of sticking to your budget, like religiously. But the next step is to look at your lifestyle. What do you need this vehicle to do for you? Do you need it to haul 4 kids and all of their sporting equipment to soccer games and dance competitions and band practice? Or, do you need to transport important clients for work and need to kind of project a certain successful image, or at least have those clients or coworkers be able to sit in the back seat and be perfectly comfortable? Do you need to tow something? Do you have a boat or a trailer or something that you need to be able to haul or put in and out of the water? Do you want something fun for zipping around on the weekends because, hey, you don't have kids and you don't need to haul anything and it's really just you, and you can have basically a toy like I do? Answering these utility questions will first help you determine what type of vehicle you need. Do you need an SUV? Do you want a luxury sedan? Are you talking a fun little zippy sports car? Or do you just face the facts and, quite frankly, you need a minivan because it's practical and you have 4 kids, and hey, minivans are a lot cooler than they used to be, so don't fear the minivan. Once you determine the type of vehicle that you need, consider your priorities. What is important to you? How many miles a year do you drive? Are you going to be really putting this vehicle through a lot of work, a lot of paces? You need it to, last, go 20,000, 30,000 miles a year even without causing you a lot of problems? Or maybe you only drive 5,000 or 6,000 miles a year because you either work from home, or like one of my other clients, you live, right on the light rail line and you take the light rail to work every day and you really just use the car periodically or on the weekends and you don't drive a lot, in which case you're not going to be asking it to work quite as hard for you. Then rank the factors that are important to you. How long do you plan to keep this vehicle? Are you someone who likes to have a new car every 3 to 4 years and it's within your budget to do so? Is it, I just need something temporarily while I'm in this situation, but then in 3 years, I know things are going to be changing and my goal then is to get into this type of vehicle. So look at not only your current situation, but also look down the horizon at your plans, your financial picture, your goals, what your lifestyle is going to be like. Maybe you and your spouse are planning to start a family in 2 or 3 years. And so you want to get a vehicle that will be able to get you through maybe that first baby. So really look at the big picture and start to look at the things that are important to you. Do you value, reliability and low maintenance costs over time? Are you looking for something that's really fuel efficient and green, good for the environment, or at least, not as bad on the environment? Is safety a high priority for you? Maybe you've got 2 small children and you drive in town a lot and you're worried about all the crazy drivers. Safety is really, really important to you to keep, those precious babies safe. Or maybe luxury and image and looks are important to you because you want to convey a certain image, or you've gotten kind of accustomed to that lifestyle. And, believe me, once you've driven a Mercedes, it's kind of hard to go back. So that's what you want. Or if you're like me and, performance and 3 pedals and how fast it goes and how well it goes around corners are a priority to you. So rank those priorities to you in terms of what is the most important. And then you can look at, well, what brands line up with those priorities? If reliability and low maintenance costs are your top priority, then you probably need to stick with looking at the Asian brands, Honda or Toyota, or if you're in the luxury segment, look at Lexus and Acura. If, image and luxury and comfort are really important to you, then you might be looking at, Mercedes, still even Lexus. If, technology and sportiness and fun to drive are more important to you, then you may be looking at something like a BMW or an Audi. Or, if you're going to be doing a lot of outdoor adventure stuff, then you might be looking for a little more off-road utility. You might need all-wheel drive because you spend a lot of time in the mountains or you live up north. I've got friends who live, up in Vermont and New Hampshire and Ohio. And, if I had to live up there, or if I lived out in Washington or Oregon, I would probably drive a Subaru because they're all-wheel drive all the time. So different brands have different specialties and different demographics. I call them personalities. But what brands align with your priorities best? I know these things because I know the brands so well, but you can do that research too. Part of it is, looking at their advertising. who are they marketing to and what features are they really showing off in their ads? Volvo, has always been known for safety. They're like safety, safety, safety. That's the most important thing. And they've sacrificed some other, some reliability in order to get to the safety, but their brand is still known as being one of the safest brands on the market. That's changing a lot because the safety technology has improved so much and the other brands have gotten on board with that. And so you need to look at true hard data and not just what the brands say their thing is. This is where you can get on websites like Consumer Reports. It's well worth, I think, what do I pay? $30 a year for a Consumer Reports subscription. And, I also use it for looking at microwaves and vacuum cleaners. But they've got a lot of great car information there. It is independent because it's not supported 100% by advertising. It is supported by subscriptions. So their information is a little more objective. It is a reliance upon people just like you and me, car owners, filling out the surveys and telling their experience, but they also get industry information and they have a lot of great information about recalls and technical service bulletins, things that commonly go wrong with these cars. So you can research that, but also look at JD Powers, look at just Google problems with, the 2018 blah, blah, blah. Or if you're looking at used cars, especially, hey, what were some common problems, with a 2012 whatchamahoosit? Google is your friend. You just have to know how to weed through the answers that are out there and know, what is propaganda, what is true industry information, and what is just a bunch of yahoos that had problems with their cars because they didn't maintain them. That's where doing the research can be a little difficult to weed through when you don't know how to process a lot of that information. But it's still important to do that. And that way you can pick a brand, and even from year to year, if you're looking for a used car, certain years of used cars have certain problems that may even be unique to that year or within a couple of years till the manufacturer figured it out. There's a couple of years, Honda is known for reliability. You can normally never go wrong with a Honda, except for a couple of years of the CR-V where they had a problem with the air conditioning heat shielding system and it was a design flaw. There's no fix for it. And the AC goes out on those particular models. You just have to Google and find out these things. And there's never 100% way to know and find every little problem. But you can start with places like Consumer Reports. Be sure to read up on recalls. Many times the recalls have remedies and they're fixed. So that, once, it's not a big deal remedy, or it kind of was a big deal, but they have a fix for it. And as long as the car you're looking at has had that fix done, you should be fine. But it is an indication of how reliable is that vehicle. If you look up a vehicle, say, for example, the 2016 Jeep Grand Cherokee, when they redesigned it, it's a beautiful car, but I think they had, a half a dozen recalls in the first 2 months, and they were pretty significant. It can be hard to understand what the recall means, and you might have to Google that or even call the service department at the dealership and say, hey, what does this recall really mean? And they'll probably tell you, but it can be something simple as, oh, there was a bad sensor and you just replace the sensor and it's not a huge deal. Or it's, oh, well, for example, on the Jaguar F-Pace, when it first came out last year, there was a recall because the rear drive shaft was too short. How do you cut a drive shaft too short? I'm sure I've complained about this before, but it just still blows my mind. So that's a little more of a significant problem that tells you, maybe they didn't put quite enough brain cells into this. So doing that kind of research will help you to know if you're getting a quality vehicle. Because quality should always be a priority on your list. And finally, think about your personality. This is where I talk about you should love your car. It should not only reflect your budget and what you need it to do, but it should suit you. Maybe it's not, like I said, your dream car or, exactly what you would want. Because let's face it, maybe the most important thing for you is to have the utility to be able to transport your 4 kids around and all their stuff. And so that minivan with the sliding doors and the automatic rear gate and all the fancy entertainment features to keep the kids occupied, there's really no better vehicle if you have a large family than a dang minivan. And while that might not have the sexy factor that you think really would suit you, it depends on which minivan you pick. Obviously, there may be some compromises for your life, but it should still suit you and you shouldn't hate it. So, are you practical? Do you like practical luxury, or do you like, adventure and you want something cool and funky, or, are you just very classy and, high end? Do you wear a lot of designer clothes that, are not trendy, but will pass the test of time? There are cars that also will reflect those things about your personality. BMW is a status symbol, but they also say they're the ultimate driving machine because of the emphasis they put on performance and handling and the perfect 50-50 weight distribution. And as a result, it's a little more of a sporty, what we call a stiff ride. Maybe that's not you. Maybe I just, I need to be comfortable going down the road. I want to feel cushy. My butt in the seat needs to be nice and comfortable. So you might want to look at a Mercedes or a Lexus. If you're really into the newest technology and you want all your smartphone integration, but you still want reliability, then you might want to consider a Honda over a Toyota, because even Toyota has all the great safety stuff. For some reason, they haven't gotten on board with the Android Auto and Apple CarPlay smartphone integration. They have their own smartphone integration system. It's not great. Trust me, it's not great. So, that might help you choose a Honda over a Toyota, even though both are great and reliable. These are things that you just need to do the research and look at. And then once you narrow it down to 2 or 3 vehicles, now you can schedule a test drive of 2 or 3 vehicles. I do not recommend test driving more than 2 or 3 in the category you're looking at, because again, you'll just get overwhelmed. So schedule those test drives. That's when you can put the butt in the seat and go from analytical mode into, does this vehicle feel right? Is it comfortable on your high knee? Can you reach all the controls? Are the controls user-friendly and intuitive? Just does the cockpit feel right? Does the ride feel right to you? When you go through those steps, you can usually say, yep, this is the perfect car for me. So with so many exciting makes and models on the market today, finding the perfect car really can feel like a daunting task. I'm sure I've probably overwhelmed you a little bit with all of this information, but that's why I developed the perfect car process for my clients. I use over 140 pieces of data about your lifestyle, budget, and personality to narrow down all of those choices to just 2 or 3. And not just new cars. We look at, based on your budget and what you need it to do, hey, we really kind of want a luxury car, and having a luxury car is important, but your budget says, well, we can buy one that's 3 or 4 years old with okay mileage on it, maybe certified pre-owned, and still get you what you want, accomplish your goals, look at your long-term vision for what you need the car to do for you and where you're going, and that'll all still work out. There's lots of different ways to solve each individual person's car buying puzzle. I look at it as a puzzle and pull all these different pieces and figure out how do we put this picture together so that the resulting picture is you really happy and smiling. Your bank account is comfortable next to this wonderful car that you really, really love. So that saves you the countless hours of doing all that research and tromping around through lots and dragging your family and potentially driving yourself a little bit nuts. So it also helps you avoid a lot of those pitfalls like bright, shiny object syndrome and kind of getting just sucked into that new car smell and a car that you love. It's beautiful, but you really can't afford it, or it's just not the quality of vehicle that you're looking for. I'll keep you from leasing when you're not a good lease candidate, or, financing a vehicle for 72 or, God forbid, 83 months just to get it into your price point. Because if you have to do that, you may be trying to buy too much car. Or saying, I really want this vehicle, but because my budget is so small, I'm, looking at buying something 10 years old with 150,000 miles on it. not thinking about you're going to have a heck of a lot of maintenance on that vehicle to keep it running. So now your budget is blown on maintenance. So these are all the things that you need to think about. And if this does seem overwhelming to you, please just give me a call. Go to my website, thecarchick.com. We'll set up a time to talk about your car buying goals and see if you're a good fit to go through the perfect car process with me so that I can save you all that hassle. And if it is something that you want to do on your own, I hope this information has been helpful. Please feel free to go to my website and look at my blog. I've got a lot of good information out there. And remember, Edmunds.com is a good research source. ConsumerReports.com is a good research source. Get out there, look at JD Powers, look at the reviews on different websites, keeping in mind, what is the source of those reviews, and then find the perfect car for you. Because ultimately, I want you to make a smart financial decision and I want you to love your car. Until next time, folks, drive safely. I'm out of here.
The Straight Shift Podcast is copyright Leanne Shattuck, The Car Chick, 2017. All views expressed by guest and or co-hosts are those of the guest and or co-hosts, and not necessarily those of Leanne Shattuck or The Car Chick.